All right, welcome back to the Martinus Way podcast, episode 3. This one's titled Beyond Boundaries, Unleashing the Power of Flexibility. And with me I have Jamie Holt, our quality manager, and Nicole Dark, our design manager.
Yes,
welcome.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I ask you guys to tell us a little bit about yourselves, I've invited you here on the podcast. I just want to personally thank you for your contribution to Martinus over the years and also for being on this podcast. If you don't know, this podcast is about sort of gaining insights, perspectives on the company, discussing our innovative practices and learning about our company principles and what we call the Martinus Way. So this episode in particular is we're going to talk a little bit about our flexible working approach and the power that unleashes in the people that work here in the company. So without further ado, I'd like maybe, Jamie, if you could just introduce yourself, who you are, roles and responsibilities, how long you've been here, all that kind of stuff.
So I've been with Martinus for just under 8 years, bit of a long timer. I started back in 2016 at PKCT, was there for a year and a half. My previous history to that, I was with another fabrication and construction company for about 13 years, doing similar work. And my role at the moment now as QA manager is looking after the initiating documents, our processes, systems, all the really exciting stuff that everyone loves. And looking after our national, international accreditations, making sure that we're compliant and we deploy our systems. So auditing, getting audited, all the really exciting stuff. But develop the QA strategy, train people in our systems, which is always good, getting to know the new starters and interacting there. And also assist with our subcontractor onboarding. So a bit varied, but a bit of everything.
Well, I know you and I have had a long history together.
Mm-hmm.
We actually met on PKC2.
I think we started at very similar
time. I think I might have started maybe just before. Anyway, you were running the job down there and I remember distinctly having a conversation with you about you wanting to do something different, and you had that expertise in quality and QA management. And I remember talking to Treven, and he was like, "Just do it." Yeah,
look, everyone's got their groove, and that was sort of what I like doing. The hustle and bustle and chaotic project. SP senior project and engineer is suitable for a lot of people. It was okay, but I like the sort of planned workload, if that makes sense, that QA gives me.
We've had a long history. We worked in the same team for a long time, and many robust discussions.
Manager for quite some time, and many robust discussions.
I do know you're partial to a fireball or two as well.
Yes, I love my fireball. Yeah. Early adopter.
What about you, Nicole? Who are you?
Who am I?
Who are you?
At Martinus, I'm the design manager currently for the Alberta Parks project that we were successful in winning. I actually worked on the bid for Alberta Park, so it's been a great achievement to work through the bid and now been on the project. I work with a great design team at Martinus and also our designers from Oricon and BG&E at the North Sydney office for 2-3 days a week, and I'm at home for the remainder 2 days a week, and it works really well. But I've been here for 2 years, so I haven't always been in rail. I was previously an architect. I am still an architect. I make sure I get my registration every year just to have that. I was an architect for 20 years. So it was time for a change. There's a few reasons why I wanted to do the shift, but we'll probably get into that later.
I think, and again, one of the beauties of Martinus is pulling in people from outside the industry. I didn't come from rail either when I first started, and then slotting in and then learning about rail and doing what you need to do. But recently promoted as well. Did you get a recent promotion?
Yeah, in Alberta Parks. I've been a design manager for Martinus. Right. However, we need to get the competencies through ARTC. So recently I obtained those competencies. Excellent. So I was able
Congratulations.
to be qualified design manager for the Alberta Parks project.
And I know recently you're overseas for a little bit. Is that part of the story you're going to talk about, or?
Yeah, so last year I was able to head to Europe for 2 months, just take my family. I didn't work during that time. Good. It was, I was lucky enough to, we finished the bid. and I was lucky enough it was awarded while I was over there. So it was a bit of a gap in the project.
Perfect.
But yeah, Martinus was fully supportive of me going over there and taking that 2 months off, which I really appreciated.
Epic.
Yeah, it was great. You know, it was tough spending a couple of months in Italy and Greece and.
Oh, very good. Well, like I said, welcome and thanks to both of you for being on here to talk about our flexible work approach, flexible approach to work and the Martinus way. We'll dive into it, but I wanted to start by talking about the other day we were featured on the Rail Express magazine. I think we're on the cover about our successful sort of pivot into the D&C space. That article specifically sort of talks about our focus on innovation and growth, leveraging sort of latest technologies, sustainable work practices and that kind of stuff. And it got me thinking about, we do that with our people as well. And flexibility in the workplace has always been part of the DNA, especially with Treven running the company. I remember when I first started, it didn't matter where you were as long as you were doing your job. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, one is we hire people with what we call the AAA approach. So we hire people who will take authority or act with authority in their role, who are happy to make a decision, and we push down that decision making, decision execute. We call it empowered execution. We push down decision making at Martinus. So act with authority in your role, but you take accountability for that. So if you stuff up, that's fine. But we also want people who can work autonomously, right? So it doesn't matter where you are as long as you're getting your job done. The other one is that we sort of really focus on empowering our people by not restricting them with rules and regulations. And I think a good example of that was when COVID hit a couple of years ago and people were forced to work from home. It was business as usual for us. We kind of flourished through that period because we already had that set up. It was part of our culture anyway. It didn't matter that people were working from home. And I do know recently, you start reading some articles out there. There are, companies both inside our industry and outside our industry that are demanding people back into the office spaces and in the workplace. Yeah, and it got me thinking about the idea of trust. I wonder what that does for employer-employee relationship. Doesn't
instill confidence.
It doesn't instill confidence. That's what I think. I think, is there a level of distrust that we can't see you, so you need to be in here? I don't know the reasons behind why companies might do it, but I know at Martinus it's always worked, and there's a big focus on still maintaining relationships and getting your job done, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was an interesting concept for me where, we're making you work from home, but now we're forcing you back in the office, and it's...
Yeah, you got your job done when we're at home. Yeah. So why are we forced to?
Why are you forced to do something different?
And like you said, we were already all over that before COVID.
Yeah,
I was working out of home prior to COVID anyway, and so there was coming back into the office would have been the unusual thing. Prior to, because I was never like that pre-COVID.
So what about your personal stories? And the reason I've asked both of you onto this is Nicole, you're on one of our biggest projects that we're running. Mm-hmm. Jamie, you've been here for 8 years, from site-based roles now into QA management and that kind of stuff. I want to hear your personal stories, right, about what attracted you to Martinus. How do you use flexibility? What impact that has had on you, both personally and professionally, so we can get that out there.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, the personal aspect of flexibility for me is a variety of stuff. There's the high level, what you'd expect, being able to go to your kids' awards ceremonies and special assemblies and swimming carnivals, and being able to fit that into your lifestyle and then put your workload around that. As you've probably seen with my thousands of Facebook updates, my son Jay's a drummer, and he recently had a touring ensemble where they go to all different primary schools, and he performs with a select group of musicians. And being able to go and see that on his last year, he's in year 11, that meant a lot. And that flexibility allowed me to do that. And it's something that I could see a lot of people, a lot of employees at other companies just wouldn't be able to do. They miss those moments, and you only get that once. But there was also a couple of more personal things. A couple of years ago, my wife went in for routine day surgery, ended up being in hospital for about 10 days, and then at home for around 6 to 8 weeks after that, fairly immobile. So the flexibility allowed me to take up the slack and, be the taxi for the kids after school, washing, running down in the middle of the day, putting a load of washing on, chucking on the line, just making sure that everything ticked over while, to keep everything running there. And probably more recently, and I mentioned this just previously before we started recording, I've got elderly parents. Despite how I look, I'm not a spring chicken, and my parents are in their late 80s. And Dad recently was diagnosed with cancer, so he had an operation that knocked him about a fair bit. And I probably only see him once a year, and every year the gap, it's a big step change every time. When they're that old, they look very different each time. And so to try and, make him feel a little better, just packed up my gear, packed up the screens, packed up the computer, and went up to Budrum Retirement Village and worked out of their house for a couple of weeks. Got to see him for breakfast, got to see him for lunch, got to see him each night for dinner. And it was quality time that, once again, you would have to take annual leave to go get, but I just worked throughout the day. It was a great little office for a little while there. We had a Budrum Gardens Retirement Village head office in Queensland to run with our other Budrum office with Jared. But no, and look, that flexibility, that's invaluable. That's why we are what we are. It's that sort of thing. I mean, there's other examples apart from us too. I mean, I can think of Ariana working over in Canada.
Yeah.
She just has seamlessly has moved to another country and is working fantastically. So, look, for me, that's the big highlights for me. That flexibility is fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's an important thing. Just that mental component, the mental wellness that offers, to know that you can be there for your parents, you get to go see them. And nobody will question that at Martinus. It's you do it.
Well, just out of courtesy, I rang Toby in Boston and said, look, I'm going to be doing this. He said, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. Well, that's probably right.
But that's that AAA approach, right? Someone who will act with authority in their role. I'm doing this. You let them know.
Yeah.
And we empower you to do that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Martinus. What about you, Nicole?
Well, we are in the school holidays at the moment, so it's always hard for parents during that time because the hours are suddenly shifted. You've got to try and get them into those different activities, and their home drop-off times are completely different to the normal school hours, and there's no after school and so forth. So, flexibility during holidays is so important. Like next week, I'm going to go to Queensland because that's where the in-laws live, and I'm just going to work from there because, Martinus support that. Actually, you've asked your boss. Sorry, Zoe, I haven't asked you about that yet.
Well, don't worry. Zoe was meant to be on this and she threw you under the bus to be on it, so she'll be fine.
But
she owes you one.
I know she doesn't mind where I work as long as the work gets done. So just that pressure that is taken off you.
It's a pressure relief, isn't it?
It's a pressure relief. And I'm reminded of that pressure every day because my husband doesn't have that flexibility. He's in a very traditional work environment where his boss expects him in the office at Burwood every day. So he has to sit in traffic, an hour traffic there, an hour traffic home. He was going to come to Queensland with us next week, assuming that he could work just for 3 days during that holidays, and his boss said no. Wow. So he's got to fly up on Wednesday night now. He misses that 3 days, seeing his parents. They're not my parents, they're his parents because his workplace isn't allowed.
I actually couldn't imagine being somewhere now where they just said, you are not allowed to do that. Because one of the things when I had a big team that I was managing, people would introduce me as, that's my boss. And I would say, no, I work with you. I'm no one's boss. Like, that's a weird concept to me. It is a weird, I boss you around. Like, it's no. I ask you to help with things and do things, and you'll do it because you're motivated and want to be here. But to say you can't do something, that's just I mean, I know there's times, right, when we have to be in certain places, on projects or whatever. Like, you have to be there. And I know, we're a project delivery business, so not everyone can just work from home, right? If you're on a project, you're on a project. But I know plenty of stories of where we've offered some flexibility on some of the projects that we've operated. You know, Mitch Corrigan was fantastic at that when he was running one of the major projects he was working on, letting sort of teams leave earlier on certain days. There was some work from home days on a fortnightly basis to get their paperwork done.
Really tried to replicate, the benefit of what a few of the other employees would get. So.
And so you sort of, when it becomes that's just how we operate, how we do business. You get people like that on projects, making sure that, well, I'll do what I can, where we can. What about, someone out there, and they say, might go, well, how do you manage accountability, right? How do you stay accountable to everything you need to do when you're not in the office?
Well, it's funny because in the office you don't have your boss looking over your shoulder all the time anyway. So it's very similar accountability. But for me, the best way to stay accountable is just to not promise, but promise people what you're going to do. Now, that keeps you accountable. So, basically someone that wants something, you say, no worries, you'll have it this afternoon. Well, that's straight away keeping you accountable. If you don't perform on that, or you give them substandard quality or deliver late, you're found out pretty quick. So for me, that accountability is fairly easy, and just telling people what you're going to do and sticking to it.
What about you, Nicole? You got any special tips?
Well, being on a project, it's deadline driven.
You have to.
So you have to meet the deadline. So, and there's a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter where you do the work to meet the deadline, as long as it's met.
Yeah.
And it's also about availability too. It's a cooperative culture we have on the project, and we are all available. It doesn't matter where you are available, where you take that phone call or where you take that Teams chat, as long as you respond and you're available.
Respond. Yeah. Exactly. I think one of the keys is, you've got to maintain relationships, right, with people, because relationship and one of our taglines, right, is relationships at the heart of everything we do at Martinus, right? If you don't have that effective relationship, it's very hard to get things done. So you've got to be focused on building relationships. And we have an exercise here where I'll sit down with somebody and we relationship map. Instead of a stakeholder mapping exercise, it's a relationship mapping exercise. Like, who should I have a relationship with in the organisation that will help me get my job done more effectively and efficiently, and vice versa. And do I know that person? Right?
Well, working remotely, you've got to know who your go-to people are.
Yeah.
It's not like you wander around the office seeing who can help you. When you're sitting at home in front of your computer, you've got to know who to go to. So you've got to have that relationship set up. And it's not only a relationship of knowing who to go to for information, but so much of the communication when you're working from home is written. And knowing the person that you are writing a Teams message to, writing an email to, those sort of things. So many things get lost in translation, and irony and sarcasm, and that is hard to go through print, and you can very quickly spiral out of control in a conversation that you thought was a very funny conversation. That's
we always say you need a sarcasm little meme.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, look, building those relationships from these.
His whole email will just be that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, the benefit, talking about Teams is invaluable for flexibility. It's almost as good as having a conversation in person, except for the added benefit is that it's recorded and that the links are shared and you can go back to it. It's definitely it's live. It's good. It works. And, I came after the pandemic, but I was told that Teams was already well and truly set up, and you could tell that coming into the business. My previous practice, we fumbled through it during the pandemic, and being at home, there was frustrations with it. So it took us a while. But yeah,
it's a cultural norm here. Like it's easy. I'll get video message calls constantly during from Teams each day. And you answer it, and
you'll even answer ones you're not.
I don't answer you.
I answered one the other day. I forgot, didn't it? Your face just appeared on the screen. What am I doing here?
I worked out pretty quickly. I didn't need to be in that.
Yeah, you did.
I was gone. But it's important to make sure that you keep that connection, right? But I mean, even like the way we operate here. I mean, we've got so many offices now that I can't even count. At French's Forest, North Sydney, here at Kirrawee, Bellambi, Forbes. We've got Maroochydore, we've got Brisbane. We've got places.
Budrum Gardens Retirement Village.
We've got offices all over the place. So we're spread geographically anyway, because like I said, we're a project delivery business where our projects are all over the place anyway. So it doesn't make sense to all be in one office and this is where you need to come. And we originally set up a Manly office years and years ago. I don't know if you remember, but Ryan Baden lives in Manly, and it was ridiculous to ask him to travel to Kirrawee, which he was doing every day. But I went to Manly yesterday for an ELT session. It took me 2 hours to get home. 2 hours. I got in the front door, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I think I nearly started crying.
You don't want to be doing that every day.
No.
It's
Right?
a
Well, it's
sure
just a
side of
waste of
some work
time.
anxiety, yeah.
What?
You'd limit your resources, wouldn't you, or your people? Like if these companies are making people come to the office every day, where are they getting these people from?
Good point. Because I remember when James Brunson now is head of our people, but I remember when he came into our team as the head recruiter, there were issues with recruiting people and hiring people who lived on the north side when we had a office on the south side of Sydney. They were like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to make that trip every day." But then we said, "Well, look, we've got a Frenchs Forest office." Oh, great. And we had Rose Hill at the time as well. Yeah. So you had all these offices around the place that you can just, and I mean, we hot desk in here. I could turn up to Frenchs Forest tomorrow. It doesn't matter. What's been the biggest challenge then? If you were going to say, look, yeah, flexibility is great, but there are challenges. What's the biggest challenge?
Definitely keeping motivated. I mean, you do need interaction with people. Yeah. I mean, you can't work from home 5 days a week. You can set up Teams meetings and do a lot of communications that way, but you need to come into the office. You need the office banter. You need a bit of shit talk, a little bit of talking smack to 100%. People like we do. Yeah. And, completely unwork related. And that just mentally, gets you through some of the, I won't say isolation, but, you're away from the office. But if you've set up the work environment at home correctly, I noticed through the pandemic, a lot of people were at kitchen tables and things like that. But like I said, we were set up beforehand. I had an office at home set up. It was my son's bedroom that had a beautiful view, and I conned him into going to what was the downstairs office as his bedroom, and now I've got this beautiful north-facing view for my office. Now I have quiet neighbours. You make sure you've got a door that can shut. They're the sort of challenges you've got. Yeah. You do need to separate yourself. I mean, being there allows you the flexibility to go outside to take a phone call, sit in the sun, pat the dog while you're taking a phone call, taking for a walk at lunch, whatever it may be. But you do need that. Shut the door. I've got to get some work done. But for me, I try to get a lot of work done earlier on in the day, and that's how I manage. I'm a list maker. I'll get a list going for the day or for the week. Start work early, which you mentioned a couple of traffic that some people had to face. I mean, that's an hour up, and I think it's about an hour and a half back for me with traffic. There's 2.5 hours that I make up every day at home. I'll be on the computer way before I would even think about being here in the office if I was driving up.
Yeah, that's the added productivity from working from home. That you miss that interaction with the people.
Yeah, you do, and you can make that up, and you try to make the office days that you do come in when there is an event on. I think we've got Are You OK Day tomorrow, and
Rail Are You OK Day tomorrow.
We've got a few different things going on, so you make sure you're up to mix with the people and get to know all the new people, because we are always employing and always growing. So,
What about you, Nicole? Challenges.
Look, it's not that challenging having to work from home 2 days a week. I think similar to Jamie, you are in your home environment, so it's important not to feel guilty, leaving the kitchen in a mess or not doing the washing. Although, on the Friday when I work from home, it is the day I throw on a few baskets of washing, because I don't have to do it on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's a small thing.
It is. Yeah.
But having that freedom on the weekend, not doing housework, is amazing, because you can just spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes on a Friday doing that. So just they're simple things, but it's the flexibility gives you that opportunity.
Yeah, I think the point of that is, and we talk, Rail Are You OK Day is tomorrow, and isolation is a surefire way into mental illness and that kind of stuff. If you're isolated, that can perpetuate things. So just understanding how you work best with flexibility is the key, right? What works best for me. Personally, I'll come in on a Sunday afternoon here and get the stuff done that's really important to me. So Monday morning's not a shit fight.
Yeah.
Like I can come in here, I can cruise in here, and I can have some conversations with people and that kind of stuff. I'm not worried about. Takes away that anxiousness of, I've got this stuff to do. I'll make my list on a Sunday and I'll try and tick off 1 or 2 things before Monday, you know.
Yeah.
That just works for me.
Yeah, that's it. You're ahead. Start writing down jobs you've already done and tick them off straight away. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's so good. What about, you know, if you were giving tips to, you know, people that were coming here to Martinus and, you know, utilising a flexible work approach, that kind of stuff, what sort of tips might you give them?
I think similar to what we just sort of said. I mean, one of the big things, I mean, we talked about before is trust.
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to take advantage, I think like Nicole said, you want to take advantage of the work and home environment, but not take advantage of it as in you're on Facebook 8 hours a day because you've got no one looking over your shoulder. You take advantage of it by going outside and patting the dog and doing those sort of things. But for me, those sort of things, the trust comes with it, and making sure that you don't take the piss.
Yes.
Rightio. We have on one of our policies, the no dickhead policy, don't take the piss, should probably be just below it. I mean, you're not joining the company for flexible work arrangements just so you can take it easy, okay?
You'll get found out pretty quickly.
You'll get
found out very quickly.
And it's not, you know, keystrokes per minute and all the things you see in the news. People you just get found out because you're not productive anymore.
Yeah.
People will pick that up, that you're not getting the work, the throughput done. So for me, you'll know straight away whether a flexible or, you know, working from home arrangement suits. I mean, like you said before, some jobs you just can't do it. But if you're in a position where it is possible, you'll know it's possible. You've got the room at home, you've got the office, you've got the environment to be able to do it at home. So the advice I would give is, you know, take advantage of it because not every employer gives it.
Yeah.
You know, make sure that, you know, we're very lucky to be part of a company that has very high family-centric views and promotes the work from home sort of atmosphere. So take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And you can tell it comes from the top down.
Yeah.
You know, Treven has a few kids and so do all the other all the other managers.
Yep.
And they enjoy the liberties also of working from home or working from Bali or you know, working from across the world. So take that on board yourself. It's just the freedom of being able to have that opportunity and to be able to, you know, look into the future and think, 6 weeks holidays, you know, perhaps I will take 2 weeks of holidays 1 week of holiday in Bali and then put the kids into a school camp over there for a week. It's, you know, you can imagine
use it. Don't abuse it is I think the key, right? Yeah. And it's funny because I one of the things that I really like about Martinus, or actually love about Martinus, is there's no stigma around it. So especially from Treven.
It's never questioned.
Treven messaged me the other day. He said, "Hey, I'm in the office. If you're around, let's catch up." And I said, "Oh, dude, I'm in Adelaide with my daughter for running." And he wrote back, "Brilliant. Have a great time."
Yeah,
you know, there's no, "Oh man, I would have loved to have seen you." Or,
should have been in the office.
Yeah, and you just go, "This is a cool place."
Yeah, and you know, as long as you're available, you know, you were available to take that phone call. You're honest.
Yep.
You keep up the communication. Would be my tip. Be a good communicator. Respond quickly.
Yeah.
You know, if you respond after a couple of hours, you know, where are you? Are you taking the piss? Are you taking a surf that might be too long, longer than what it should have been?
Yeah, it's you mentioned trust. Trust is key, and I know for a fact because I've heard it out of Treven's mouth. He gives trust 100% up front. He says it's for you to lose it. All right, so I think that's like so many people say to me, it takes ages to build up trust with somebody. You know, we got to build trust. We got to do. Treven gives it straight up. Yeah. All right, it's for you to lose it. I think that's really important. Like that's so different to anyone else that I've heard. I love that. And use it, right? Because that's how we roll. Yeah. Anything else that you think is important to note around Martinus, the Martinus way?
Oh, look, to summarise, my transition from architecture to Martinus has been fantastic. I did not know a thing about rail
Yeah.
2 years ago. I've learned on the job. Obviously, as an architect, a lot of skills were transferable, but Martinus were willing to teach me. And, I've become design manager for ARTC. So it's in 2 years. So it's been a fantastic journey, no regrets.
It's a great success story, actually. We need to get a grab of that. It's a really good success story. Really good. Anything from you, Jamie?
Yeah, look, the flexibility thing I think is there's another prong to it. I don't think we touched on but didn't really discuss, and that is the flexibility of position. So I started with Martinus as an SPE, and you mentioned yourself, I had skills in other areas, and Trevor was more than happy for me to change direction and my career pivot in another way, and been doing the QA management here for the last 6 years. So the ability to change and be flexible with that. I mean, now I think we call it pathways program.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We've been doing that
forever.
Doing it unofficially for years.
Yep.
So that's just another string to the flexibility bow. It's not all about.
It's not about working from home.
It's not about working from home. It's about doing what you're best doing at work.
It's we could go on for ages, right? So we are a strength-based organisation. We really focus on identifying people's strengths and working towards those strengths. And if you have a desire to be in a different area, we will make that happen.
I've got no one wanting to join the QA team. I don't know what the goal is there.
No one. It's you and Drifter, and it's a weird crew. So
it's a good crew.
And you got to see our teams chat.
Ken's doing a good job on A2P.
Yeah.
No, look. I think it's important to note that high levels of trust. Don't isolate yourself. Be a good communicator. Embrace flexibility in our workplace because, Martinus is different. We are challenging the norms in the construction industry in particular. So remember, embrace it and then, use that to strive for excellence in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, agreed.
Sounds about right to me.
All right, we're out. Thank you.
All right,
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks for
That's
having
great.
me.
Thanks, Jamie.